Over 100 non-governmental organizations are raising alarms over the mass starvation of Palestinians in Gaza due to the Israeli blockade as the death toll from famine and malnutrition in the Strip keeps rising. In Venezuela, the International Forum for a Humane Humanity Balance of Universe is underway in Caracas to make a call for peace and the end of the genocide against the Palestinian people. And Moscow and Kiev ended Wednesday a new round of negotiations in Istambul, Turkey, without making any progress towards ending the conflict in Ukraine. Hello, welcome from the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from the teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. Over 100 non-governmental organizations are raising alarms over the mass starvation of Palestinians in Gaza due to the Israeli blockade as the death toll from famine and malnutrition in the Strip keeps rising. In a statement issued on Wednesday, 109 aid and human rights groups called on governments to take urgent action against Israel, including by demanding an immediate and permanent ceasefire and the lifting of all restrictions on humanitarian aid. The statement denounces the Israeli blockade of tons of food, clean water, medical supplies, and other items that sit untouched just outside the Strip and accuse Tel Aviv of creating chaos, starvation, and death. In this context, a Gazan hospital reported on Tuesday that 21 children died from malnutrition or starvation in the last 72 hours in the Palestinian territory. The 2.4 million inhabitants of Gaza are facing severe shortages of food and basic necessities as humanitarian aid distribution centers are regularly attacked. The Palestinian Health Ministry in Gaza informed 111 people have now died from famine and malnutrition in recent weeks, most of them children. The United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres condemned the horror in Gaza, where a level of death and destruction unprecedented in recent history has been reached. In addition, the organization accused the Israeli army of killing more than 1,000 people waiting for help since the end of May, most of them near the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation's facilities. And in Tel Aviv, Israeli activists gathered in Happy Square for a march to the Defense Ministry headquarters, carrying banners and mottos such as "Hunger is a war crime, we're all responsible, it is being done in our names." Protesters rejected the genocidal actions in Gaza and demanded the culprits to be held accountable. In June 2025, the United Nations condemned Israel's use of food as a weapon in Gaza and called it a war crime. Meanwhile, in Lebanon, dozens of demonstrators gathered outside the Egyptian embassy in the capital Beirut on Wednesday in solidarity with the Palestinian people. Dozens of social activists and other civilians waved Palestinian flags to protest the Israeli aggression on Gaza and its current humanitarian aid blockade. In addition, demonstrators accused the Egyptian government of supporting Tel Aviv's onslaught on the Palestinian enclave. Furthermore, they demanded the opening of the border between Egypt and the Gaza Strip to allow the entry of humanitarian aid. And Columbia University in the United States imposed severe punishments, including expulsion and revocation of academic degrees, on students who participated in protests against Israel attacks on Gaza. The student activist group Columbia University Apartheid Divest said in a statement that nearly 80 students have been expelled or suspended for up to 3 years for their involvement in anti-war protests. On Tuesday, Columbia said in a statement that its latest punishment of students relates to the distribution of Butler Library in May 2025. The group said the university's sanctions on students far exceed precedent for acts of teaching or occupations of buildings unrelated to Palestine. Another topic is the United Nations World Food Programme has warned of the possibility of reducing food rations in South Sudan due to a lack of financial resources. According to our report, as of September, the WFP would only be able to assist 2.5 million people, equivalent to 30% of those suffering from severe hunger in the African nation. In addition, the organization points out that the lack of funding could further worsen the living conditions of millions of individuals living in communities without support to face hunger. Last week, the agency announced a request for $274 million to continue supporting the people suffering from acute food insecurity until the end of 2025. And Congolese local outlets reported that at least 10 artisanal miners lost their lives and many went missing due to a collapse at the Lomera gold mine in South Kivu. They further revealed that the mudslide damaged a dozen gold mine shafts, so it caused the death of at least 10 artisanal miners and an undetermined number of workers went missing. Therefore, rescue teams continue to search for survivors, but experts estimate the death toll is likely to surge. In this context, the area has been under the control of M23 rebels since they captured large mineral-rich eastern national areas earlier this year. We now have our first break coming up. Remember, you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you'll find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. I'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back. Haiti reports the first displacement of more than 15,000 people due to increased violence in Artibonite department. This way, some 3,425 households have been displaced following recent armed attacks in the communes of Dessalines and Beret. Social organizations have warned that violence between armed groups is forcing families to move to other popular areas of the Caribbean nation. However, several localities that are taking in refugees are vulnerable to confrontations between criminal groups. For its part, the Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs reported on the need to send humanitarian aid and assist the victims and injured by the crisis of insecurity in Haiti. In Honduras, the President of the National Assembly, Luis Redondo, declared the adoption of the transmission of preliminary electoral results null and void. Luis Redondo reviewed electoral fraud and drug trafficking links with the National Party during Juan Orlando Hernandez's government. Redondo also said that the National Electoral Committee was given a fraudulent system for transmitting and disclosing electoral results. This was in violation of the Constitution, the law, and the electoral process. It was also an usurpation of the legislature's powers. Redondo said the National Electoral Committee's decision was null and void and urged those responsible to cease their actions in view of the possibility of criminal liability.
Para las elecciones generales, de acuerdo a la ley electoral, hemos diseñado este diagrama que a continuación les explicamos. Cada uno de los pasos.
In Venezuela, the International Forum for a Humane Humanity is underway in Caracas to make a call for peace and the end of the genocide against the Palestinian people. Several delegations and social organizations are participating in this international meeting, which will take place until July 24th, within the framework of the birth anniversary of independence hero Simón Bolívar. The International Forum for a Humane Humanity reiterates the importance of ceasing war and promoting actions in favor of human life. During the development of the activity, participants will address topics on solidarity, unity of nations, and social justice of the peoples of the world.
That Bolivarian vision, the balance of necessity in a world of equals, of justice to shatter imperial bonds, the precursor of anti-imperialist thought, who moreover propose balance to pursue the unity of our peoples, to make our independence irreversible and true, to build a homeland, a union of nations, a great homeland of equals, just greater, said Bolivar, trough its virtues and glory than trough its size and wealth. We have summoned this group of sisters, brothers, comrades of the world to contemplate this construction of balance.
For his part, Venezuelan Foreign Minister Ivan Hill emphasized that Simón Bolívar's thoughts are still alive today.
Hoy es un pensamiento.
Today it is a revolutionary, advanced, new anti-colonial, anti-imperialist thought that serves us all to protect our struggle, our doctrine, our actions in this Bolivarian revolution, and for many years to come. A thought that we must develop and that we must build upon, because Bolivar not only remains relevant, but is also ahead of our times. Bolivar's thought was so great that today it continues to be ahead of our times.
Tan grande era el pensamiento de Bolívar que hoy sigue adelantado.
And this Tuesday, the Central Bank of Venezuela assured the country's economy grew 6.65% in the second quarter of 2025 compared to the same period last year. The institution indicated that there was a 12.27% growth in oil activity, despite the end of U.S. licenses to foreign companies, and a 4.41% growth in non-oil activity. Likewise, there was a 4.51% increase in real estate, professional, scientific, technical, administrative, and support activities. These figures are important indicators of the national economy's capacity to recover from the adversities of recent years. And in other news, in Peru, various social movements held a march in defense of labor rights against corruption, the increase in crime, and to demand the resignation of President Dina Boluarte. In the framework of the Independence Day holidays, workers, citizens, and various organizations carried banners expressing their rejection to corruption and organized crime that affects the people. The president of the National Confederation of Mototaxis, Mario Arce, also announced that his minor transport guild will mobilize in San Juan de Lurigancho to demand the mayor of the district to change the police command for the increase in murders of drivers. We now have our second break coming up. Before, we are happy to announce a brand new podcast. teleSUR and the China Academy present Overlap, conversations from across the world on relevant issues worldwide. Tune in for its premiere on Thursday, July 24th at 7 p.m. Caracas time on all our socials or at teleSUR English, and at 9 p.m. Caracas time on our regular TV broadcasts. See you there. Final short break, and go away. At teleSUR, we have understood that sports is not just a game. It is culture, identity, and a force that unites millions and generates unparalleled emotions. That is why, on our 20th anniversary, we want to relive the best sports coverage offered throughout these 20 years of history.
teleSUR, since launching in 2005, has positioned itself as an alternate voice in the global media landscape. This philosophy has been extended to its sport coverage, which has served as a platform to disseminate a critical and social perspective of sports. At the 2010 South Africa World Cup, beyond soccer, teleSUR focused on the social and economic impact of a country with deep inequalities and a story of racial segregation. Issues such as investment in infrastructure versus social needs were addressed, connecting sports with the struggle for justice and equality and the role of figures such as Nelson Mandela. The coverage of the London 2012 Olympic Games gave visibility to Latin Americans and Caribbean athletes, highlighting their achievements and the history behind them. Also, for emphasizing the impact of the Games in the city, particularly on gentrification in a context of economic austerity in the United Kingdom. The Brazil 2014 World Cup was also part of our screen. offering coverage that was characterized by a critical social and political analysis with a strong Latin American perspective, seeking to counteract the more commercial and superficial vision offered by the hegemonic media. The Chilena was a thematic special dedicated to the 2015 Chile America's Cup, hosted by renowned Uruguayan journalist Víctor Hugo Morales and Argentinian journalist Marian Canillan. The program sought to offer an in-depth look at the tournament with a socio-political focus. Its objective was to highlight the impact of soccer in the region and the importance of Latin American integration through sports. During the Rio de Janeiro 2016 Olympic Games, teleSUR not only covered the competition but also focused on social tensions, economic contradiction during the government of Michel Temer, and the complex Brazilian reality surrounding the event. In the America's Cup 2021, which was held in a surprising way in Brazil, El Golazo de América was the sports program that teleSUR aired in that edition. Controversies about the venue, the sanitary protocols after the COVID-19 pandemic, and the risks to public health were discussed in addition to the matches and the performance of the participating teams. Zurda Infinita was the program of the Qatar 2022 World Cup, with the unmistakable voice of Víctor Hugo Morales, the contribution of Juan Pablo Sorín, and an unwavering commitment to critical analysis and a Latin American vision, offering a distinctive coverage of the greatest soccer event. Finally, Los Nuestros en París, with Carlos Montero and Cuban sports legend Javier Sotomayor, was teleSUR's bet on the 2024 Olympic Games held in Paris, France, focused on the experience and performance of Latin American and Caribbean athletes with an in-depth analysis of the social and political aspects surrounding the event.
The Petare community celebrated the Venezuelan Journalist's Day by presenting the Cecilio Acosta Award to recognize those who built a liberating narrative in the face of media hegemony. In the Miranda state, the mayor's office of the Sucre municipality attached importance to popular and insurgent communication, as well as the legacy of Commander Hugo Chavez in the battle of ideas and the solidarity with the Palestinian reporters in Gaza who risk their lives every day to denounce the Israeli genocide. In this context, the work of the teleSUR multimedia platform was acknowledged, which will soon celebrate its 20 years as a bastion of information serving the people. The president of teleSUR, Patricia Villegas, was recognized for her invaluable contribution to community enrichment through truthful, timely, and committed information for the majority.
A very popular neighborhood in this Latin American country that is the headquarters, the birthplace of teleSUR, but it is also one of the largest, if not the largest, neighborhoods in Latin America and the Caribbean. And the meaning is the roots in the territory and the local. The important thing of communicating with the simplest people on street to know their expectations, their achievements, their needs. Not because teleSUR is an international media network. It is far from it. It cares for small thing, for what it is important for the community. So being here for us is a reason for great joy. Besides, it has been a very fresh award, without protocols, full of hugs, of good music, very genuine. So well, we are happy. We even danced at this award in the middle of Petare, so it has been very cool. And it is an award dedicated to all of teleSUR. It doesn't have my name, it have the name of teleSUR and of the workers all over the world, of the people who see us, who follow us, who dialogues with us, who make us questions.
Moscow and Kiev ended Wednesday a new round of negotiations in Istambul, Turkey, without making any progress towards ending the conflict in Ukraine. According to statements made by Russian authorities to the TASS news agency, the main result of this new round of negotiations has been the agreement on exchange not only of military personnel but also of civilians. The same source assured that once the agreements are implemented, a decision will be taken on the next meeting. The talks take place 10 days after U.S. President Donald Trump threatened to impose new sanctions on the Kremlin if it does not reach a deal with Kiev within 60 days. And in Ukraine, hundreds of citizens demonstrated against the law that puts an end to the independence of the National Anti-Corruption Bureau and the Specialized Anti-Corruption Prosecutor's Office. After President Volodymyr Zelensky signed the document, over 1,000 people gathered at the presidential office to demand the repeal of the law. Protests also took place in Lviv, Odessa and Dnipro, making it one of the largest demonstrations against the Zelensky administration since the conflict with Russia began. The regulation subjugates the Anti-Corruption Prosecutor's Office. The Prosecutor General has the right to supervise National Anti-Corruption Bureau investigations, refer cases to that body, and give it instructions. At this, we have come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. So join us on our social media, Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For TeleSUR English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thank you for watching.